At the 2021 Elimination Chamber, Daniel Bryan won the Smackdown Chamber match, but was beaten by Roman Reigns in less than 2 minutes immediately after. The following Smackdown saw Bryan manipulate his way into a match with Jey Uso, which, if he won, could get him a rematch with Roman Reigns at Fastlane. This was news to Edge, who had thought that the Fastlane main event was a tag match with himself and Daniel Bryan versus Roman and Jey. The Bryan and Jey match ended in a double countout with the Fastlane main event in flux. Will Daniel Bryan earn another shot at Roman Reigns? It's time to rewind the Bloodline. Before we get started, don't forget to acknowledge us. If you are new to what we're doing here on Rewinding the Bloodline, that is exactly what we're doing. We're rewinding the Bloodline story, and we will soon be at WrestleMania 37. So go back and check out the rest of the uploads and keep supporting us. We really, really appreciate it. And now we have a lot to cover here, as we have 3 Smackdowns before Fastlane. We usually only do 2 Smackdowns a show. We are on our own Fastlane here to Fastlane. So why don't you get us kicked off, Goose?
We are at the March 5th, 2021 edition of Smackdown. The show starts with the highlight package. Edge wins the Royal Rumble, voices over,
"What champion do I choose?"
We then get the voiceover of Roman Reigns telling Edge to
"Say my name. Acknowledge me."
We then fast forward to Edge saying that he chooses Roman Reigns. We get highlights of both men, and Edge saying he's walking out as champion, and Roman Reigns saying that Edge doesn't stand a chance.
And this package was awesome. And the main show starts with Michael Cole in the ring. And Michael Cole tells us that the main event at WrestleMania may be Roman Reigns versus Edge for the Universal Championship, but maybe not.
Yeah, Bryan is introduced as the man who invented the Yes Movement and then defeated 2 Hall of Famers in one night at WrestleMania 30. We then see the graphic that Bryan and Jey are in a cage match tonight, set up last week with the double DQ. And if Daniel Bryan wins, he does get Roman Reigns at Fastlane.
And Jey already showed us back before Rumble that the Bloodline don't play by the rules. So I'm instantly thinking about, how is Bryan going to get screwed here?
Right. But when will it go wrong? Right.
Right. And so Cole starts his interview by saying that last week Bryan faced Roman's unhinged cousin, and he will face him tonight. If he wins, he will earn an opportunity in 2 weeks at the Fastlane pay-per-view, streaming live on the WWE Network and Peacock. But that throws a wrench into the plans that they initially had, and the plan was Daniel Bryan teaming up with Edge against Jey Uso and Roman Reigns.
And dude, as he brought up that Fastlane pay-per-view, that car speeding sound came, and I had horrible flashbacks of that.
Yeah,
I could not remember how much I hated hearing Fastlane. Cole then says, with that plan,
Why all of a sudden have you turned your focus
to Roman Reigns in the Universal title? Bryan then says that Cole's making a lot of assumptions here. The biggest problem is,
ever asked me if I wanted to take part in that tag?
didn't even give him the courtesy, because they know Daniel Bryan is a great hand and he'll just go along with anything. He understands why Edge and Roman would ask him.
I'm making a change.
He's not going to be the old Daniel Bryan anymore. He knows that there is a dream match of Edge versus Roman. Everyone wants to see it.
The only person who doesn't want to see it is me.
love that.
Yes, I love this Daniel Bryan. He's being a smart baby face and not like this just rah-rah. Like that, being a rah-rah guy is not always believable. Like, this is believable.
Yeah, he's a good guy that also wants what's best for him too, in a good way. I love it, man. So Daniel Bryan excuses Cole and throws to a video package of himself.
Yeah.
It starts at the Elimination Chamber, and it's Bryan getting beat on. It's down to Daniel Bryan and Jey. He's overcoming Jey, and then Roman's music hits. Bryan gets Roman in the yes lock, and then Bryan just gets beat on and beat on and beat on, and then choked out. And then Edge does the run in and calls his shot for WrestleMania.
Back to Bryan in the ring. He says, so I've lost a lot in my career.
I've gotten beat up a lot.
And you'd think that after winning his third chamber match, he'd be good. but looking up and seeing Edge pointing at the sign, never in his life.
I felt like such a failure.
He goes on this weirdo Daniel Bryan kind of tangent where he says he had the lowest ambition score in a personality test given by the WWE, and he was asked how he could do it, and his only explanation was how he could get so far with so little ambition was that he loves this business. And so he stepped back and wanted to be a full-time dad and not a full-time wrestler, and he would step aside and let others take the opportunities. But when he rolled over and saw Edge pointing to the sign, he felt like a failure.
I've failed myself.
He put himself into this position, and he knows that I
should be in the main event of WrestleMania.
And this,
Yes.
I'm on goosebumps here. This was awesome.
We now have Brian's reason why. It's instantly relatable for feeling like a failure. And I love his fire here. He says that he can tell that he loves this because in the last 3 weeks, he has wrestled more
matches than Roman and Edge have in the last
3 months.
Great line there.
He loves what he does, but by putting himself on the back burner, he hurt himself because
and what I can be is the absolute best.
And so the only way to main event WrestleMania is to win this match tonight and then beat Roman at Fastlane.
And now we have logic too.
Yes.
We have reason, fire, logic, all of it, dude. He is easily the best babyface in the company right now. And he's been on a push for 7 days.
Yes.
It's incredible. So he says that this could be his last chance. And as he's saying that sentence, Roman's music hits and the treacherous trio come out. We cut to commercial with them at the top of the ramp. And then we come back with all three in the ring. And Roman receives the microphone from Paul. And Roman starts out,
I'm looking at the same guy.
but you don't sound like the same guy. And he says that the way that Bryan talks is confusing him. And if it confuses Roman, then it must be confusing the audience.
Daniel Bryan's ambitious now.
Nah, he's the little guy, the underdog. He takes opportunities and sometimes it works out. But Daniel Bryan isn't like Roman.
Men like me, and there's not many, we're ambitious.
Daniel Bryan is saying how he loves this business, and Roman says that Daniel Bryan doesn't love it.
You don't love this. You need it.
He says love is based off of service, doing for others. That's love. And Roman loves this. He doesn't need it.
I do it because everybody needs me.
The roster, the cameraman, the crew, Paul, Jey, and Daniel Bryan, they all need him. And he says that Daniel Bryan is going to understand the facts, going to know that he needs Roman.
You're going to acknowledge me.
And then Jey grabs the microphone and starts right away.
Don't worry about the Universal Championship, Boost.
This is as close as you're going to get. Jey then says Bryan asked for this match, but he ain't locking Roman out. He's locking Jey in. And now
I gotta get you.
Jey then walks around and tries the ambush, but Bryan is a step ahead. He hip tosses Jey and then dumps him to the outside, and Bryan's music plays, and he and Roman circle each other as we go to commercial.
excellent segment, man. So we fast forward after Bianca beats Shayna Baszler and Sasha Banks slaps Reginald. Jay's backstage getting fired up for the match. He sits down and Roman's in the leather chair, and Roman tells him,
Understand. If you win tonight,
the Universal Championship is safe until WrestleMania. But if you don't, I'm going to have to defend it at Fastlane. And then he says if Jey loses, he embarrasses himself and their family.
don't embarrass our family.
Jey just says, I got this, and walks off.
And I love that Roman is reminding Jey of consequences. That's just the thing that we continuously see throughout the story of this, is that there will be consequences for losing. And after a segment with Natty and Tamina bickering about Pierce and Sonya, Jey is stewing again backstage. Kayla calls him over and asks if he's feeling any extra pressure. Jey saying,
I thrive off this.
and Daniel Bryan should be the one who's nervous. And Bryan comes out of nowhere. He ambushes Jey and he leaves him laying before the match as we cut to commercial. So now we're starting to see people be more prepared and using the bloodline tactics against them. We haven't seen that yet.
No, and this is what it comes back down to. We said it all the time that it's logic and storyline progression and character development.
Mhm.
And that's what we are getting. If we were having straight at bloodline ambushes with nobody doing anything for 6, 7, 8 months, the thing would have died a death. And because we're making these little steps, we are moving it forward, and it's really good stuff. So we come back from break. We get the highlight package from the Bryan and Uso match last week, complete with Bryan's knee getting worked over and the match finishing in the double countout. Bryan then throws Jey into the yes lock. He gets attacked by Roman. He's left laying to close the show. Now we have the cage coming down, and Corey Graves is taking us through the rules of the match while in the cage, which is strange. And to me, this was screaming angle alert. How you were saying, oh my God, how's this going to get screwed up? When we had Corey Graves saying and like outlining how dangerous the climb of 15 feet could be, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, Bryan's going to get thrown off of this by Roman over the top. You know what I mean? Something like that. This was different, man. I liked it.
Yeah, I also agree. I like the camera work that they used on Corey. Like they had the guy sitting up on top of the cage, shooting down at him. It was really well done. I very much enjoyed it. So Bryan is out first, and he does the Hulk Hogan grab of the cage before entering. Jey comes out next. He is straight business. He walks into the ring, and then Roman's music hits. Roman walks out with Paul to his left. He gets the full entrance, and he's not even in the match. And they are just cutting in so deep on this match time. Like, what a king Roman is to just be getting a full entrance for not even being in a match.
That's the head of the table, man. And I kept thinking the same. I'm like, this is supposed to be a cage match. Are we going to cut? Nope. Take your time, brother.
So Paul looks all nervous, and he runs off to the side to grab Roman an office chair to sit in.
Tribal Chief got to be comfortable, man.
Yeah.
So match starts with both men trading blows. Jey throws Bryan into the cage to get the heat early. Jey beats on Bryan. He goes to walk out the door. Bryan grabs his leg to cut him off, and Jey just continues to throw hammers. Jey then tries to go over top, but Bryan climbs up, pulls him back down, and throws Jey face first into the steel. But Jey drops down and crotches Bryan on the ropes.
And Bryan starts a comeback using the cage, throwing Jey face first into it repeatedly, and then nails Jey with a shotgun drop kick off the top. Bryan is working the arm. He throws Jey shoulder first into the cage, and Jey is selling the arm as he cuts off Bryan while climbing over the top. Jey starts working Bryan's knee in the Tree of Woe, but is slowed because of the arm. Bryan climbs up, and the two are battling at the top. Jey gets Bryan over his shoulders and hits a Samoan drop from the top rope.
Yeah, I wasn't ready for that one, man. So we come back from commercial, and the two are now straddling the top of the cage, just trading blows. They then fight down to the top rope. They're sort of like tightrope walking it. Bryan starts to hit yes kicks, but then Jey answers with a super kick and then hits slingshot Uso splash to Daniel Bryan. So Jey is now crawling to the door, but Bryan cuts him off. The two trade kicks, and Jey hits Bryan with a super kick for 2.
And Jey and Bryan trade near falls. Bryan almost gets a yes lock, and Jey pounds on Bryan from the mount and then slingshots Bryan into the cage. Jey goes to climb out, but Bryan cuts him off again. They trade blows at the top of the cage again, but Bryan strikes Jey down to the post as he goes to climb out.
Jey then pulls him back in. Bryan is now throwing Jey's elbow into the cage. Bryan hits a butterfly suplex from the top and rolls Jey into the yes lock. Jey gets the ropes, and thank you for this, Booker's finisher men. It don't matter in the cage. There is no rope break in the cage. Jake taps out. Roman is disgusted, and Bryan is going to Fastlane.
Well, I got one thing before we move forward is that was the finish. It was almost the finish of last week, but Jey got to the rope and he rolled out immediately.
Good call by you.
And so now Jey got to the rope, but it didn't matter because it doesn't matter in the cage. And I thought that was perfect.
Excellent pickup. Good job. But if we're going to get to Fastlane, we better keep it moving. So take us forward here, Bake.
So we are at the March 12th, 2021 episode of Smackdown, and we get the recap of what happened last week in the cage, featuring the voiceover of Roman telling Jey that if he loses, he embarrasses the family. We get highlights of all the big spots in the match, the finishing with Bryan getting the tap out and celebrating on top of the cage while Roman looks on from the chair below.
And the announcers tell us we are on the road to WrestleMania. And Edge is out first. Cole tells us that Edge is looking to become a 12-time champion as he will face the winner of Daniel Bryan versus Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. We also get a plug for Roman versus Daniel Bryan at Fastlane. Edge then grabs the microphone and says,
Big contract signing tonight between Roman Reigns and Daniel.
which is news to me. I loved hearing this. But first, there's a few things he needs to address.
He calls out Roman for saying that a man like Edge shouldn't face a man like Roman. Edge says he picked up something that flew over people's heads because
you and Paul are great spin doctors.
Roman has said over and over, acknowledge me. But Roman made a turn onto Daniel Bryan Boulevard.
And Daniel Bryan goes into business for himself and you get sucked right in.
Which brings him to Daniel Bryan. Bryan wants to main event WrestleMania because he loves this. But he's on Edge's show, a show that Edge was a carpenter of. And it's time to remind
our newer fan base just who the hell I am.
While you were wrestling once a week, Edge was out here wrestling 5, 6, 7 times a week if there was a double shot on Sundays against guys like
The Undertaker, John Cena, Randy Orton.
Like he does the full Legends roll call here.
Yes. And I love the SmackDown 6 reference. And
because I love this.
Don't think he doesn't, but now he, like everyone else, needs to wait to Fastlane to see who he's going to wrestle. And just as he inhales to say his next line, Daniel Bryan's music hits and DB grabs a microphone and walks into the ring, and Edge is irked. And I really like this. He's doing a great job of getting over his irritation by all of this. And we're getting some like inside baseball with some of the terms that we're going to blur the lines here.
Yeah, make it seem more shooty. I don't mind that at all. Sometimes it seems tacky, and I thought that this was really well done.
Yes.
So Bryan starts with saying that Edge says that Bryan is getting sucked in, but it was Edge because
I would have thought as the ultimate opportunist,
you would have respected Daniel Bryan. And I really like that.
Yes.
Going into business for himself, which is what Edge literally made his hay on.
Right.
You know, he didn't become a world champion until he was the ultimate opportunist. Bryan says he wants to set the record straight.
have an infinite amount of respect for what you've done.
And how much he loves this business. But, Bryan says, let me be completely honest. When I wanted to challenge Roman,
It wasn't about you.
when I laid on the mat and saw you pointing at the sign,
I got demoralized.
and he said he's not going out like this. And if this is going to be his last shot, he's going to give it everything he's got to be in the main event of WrestleMania.
And Daniel Bryan says that.
You've got your spot.
So this isn't about him. For Daniel Bryan, if he wants to main event WrestleMania, he
Have to go to Fastlane. I have to face Roman Reigns.
has to win the championship. And Edge says that Roman has already beaten Bryan. Edge has already won the Rumble. He came in at 1, he outlasted everyone,
And you were in there, by the way.
and Edge likes Bryan, but
I just don't like how you did this.
he says, you're better than this.
But you're not better than me.
And he walks out, and this was awesome. This segment, they didn't look like buffoons out there. All of this made sense. And I love how we logically, I know that we were worried a few weeks back, how are we going to get to this triple threat? But they logically, surprisingly laid it out perfectly.
And both of these guys look very strong doing it. I'm very impressed at how strong both contenders look, and you can literally get behind either guy. They're not geeking each other out. This is really, really good, man.
Right.
So during an 8-man tag, we get a plug for a 2-night combo ticket package for WrestleMania. We're almost there for the fans, baby. So after Molly Holly gets told that she's going into this year's Hall of Fame, Paul is backstage on the phone in front of Roman's door, and Jey approaches and daps him up, and Paul says,
What's up, main event, Jey Uso? Good, man. Where you going?
and Jey says he's going to see Roman. And Paul tells Jey that, well, Fridays could be tough. And, you know, there's some things like,
Whole thing about tapping out in the cage to Daniel Bryan.
so he suggests that Jey goes and does something else. And Jey gets it. He picks up what he's putting down, says he's got some things he's going to do. And then Paul just exhales with the biggest sigh of relief as Jey leaves.
Yes, consequences for losing, consequences for everything that we do. So at
I
least
do like Paul sort of looking out for Jay here, though. It's cute. I like sort of looking out for Jay here, though. It's cute. I like it.
it is, yes. So after a Sammy and KO segment, we cut to Jay walking through the corridors. Edge stops him and says he just wants to talk to him. Edge has known his family for a long time. He used to bounce around with Jay's dad and brothers when they were little. He then asked Jay point blank,
What are you doing?
Edge says that in 2015, he saw a match with Jay and his brother that woke him back up. And now Jay is just walking around with his shoulders slouched,
What's your dad think about this, man?
just being a lapdog.
Jay tells Edge, don't worry about Jay's family. He should worry about his own and enjoy his family, because when Roman gets a hold of Edge at WrestleMania,
You ain't gonna enjoy nothing, News.
and Edge just ends it with, I tried. Like, didn't mind that little interaction. That was cool.
Yeah.
So after Big E beats Sammy and is beaten down by Apollo, Roman's music hits and he comes out and is flanked by Jay and Paul. We then get that car sound. We then for Fastlane again. And then up next, Roman Reigns and Daniel Bryan will sign their contract to make it official.
You come back from commercial. Roman and crew are in the ring, and Bryan is leading the yes chants from the post. Bruce Wayne Pierce starts with,
Gentlemen, we all know why we're here tonight.
in my hand is a contract that will pit the Universal Champion Roman Reigns against challenger Daniel Bryan.
This has been looked over. Gentlemen, if there's no further business,
We'd like to sign first.
Either man sits and Roman looks at Pierce, who backs off. Pierce then realizes where he erred, gets the chair for Roman and moves it to the head of the table. Roman sits down, Bryan sits as well, and Roman looks at him and just shakes his head. And Roman says,
You don't want to do this.
I get it. You did everything you were supposed to do. Last week on Talking Smack, I agreed to it.
That was a couple weeks ago.
This week, I'm not feeling it. So no,
I'm not signing this.
you don't deserve it.
Bryan then makes me explode. Oh,
I'm excited about this, so I'm going to sign it.
It's so good.
and he goes on to say that
Who would have thought Roman Reigns was not a man of his word?
he wouldn't have thought that Roman would be afraid to fight someone like,
Oh, but you know what? Now it's all starting to make sense.
because for years, people thought Bryan was better than him. Bryan thought that, but Roman didn't, because he had self-confidence. But last week, he proved it, because he did something that Roman could never do. He made Jey Uso quit.
Good stuff. So Bryan asks if that makes Roman doubt himself. Does that make him afraid? Bryan then calls himself, and I love this dude,
Maybe I should be the self-proclaimed head of the table.
the ruler of the island, the ruler of the whole Samoan family. And Roman's just sitting.
Ruler of the island. I could be the head.
Roman's now furious, and he is screaming that he's going to smash Bryan as Bryan taunts him. And while all this is going on, Roman signs the contract. And once he does, Bryan says, oh, I'm going to tap you out, just like I did Jey Uso.
Jay immediately jumps in. He throws out the table and he screams into the mic,
You know what this match needs?
someone to call it fair and square. And do you know who that person is?
It's me.
So then Edge comes out and he says that sounds like a great idea, but how about it's you versus me for the first time in 11 years? So Pierce makes it official. Next week will be Edge versus Jey Uso, and the winner will be the special guest enforcer at Fastlane. So we get a big pull apart, and Bryan hits Edge with the Psycho knee. Bryan is left standing tall, and I am ready for this. So Goose, let's get straight on and go to the Go Home Smackdown.
So we are at the March 19th, 2001 episode of Smackdown. And again, we are on the road to WrestleMania with Fastlane this Sunday. Our main event has a huge impact on Fastlane. Edge versus Jey Uso, with the winner becoming the special guest enforcer for the Universal title match at Fastlane. And after a progressive match flow, Kayla's interviewing Edge and asks him if he's ready for his first match on SmackDown in a decade.
Edge says some of his greatest accomplishments happened on this show.
Show when I had to relinquish that World Heavyweight Championship and retire.
And it feels surreal, but it feels right. And Edge said that he truly feels that Daniel Bryan needs a fair shake at Roman, and that's why he's here. Even though Bryan hit him with the running knee.
I can forgive that because honestly, I would have done the same thing.
And Jay, he has the potential to be a huge star.
But not while he's walking in Roman's shadow.
Edge the prognosticator, man.
I know, right?
Isn't that something? So Hulk Hogan and and Titus O'Neil are announced as the WrestleMania hosts. Man, did I laugh out loud there. So after a Sami and Kevin Owens segment, Bryan comes to the ring for a promo. He hypes up Edge's first match on SmackDown in 10 years and reiterates the steps for tonight's main event. He calls out Jey for what he'll do if he wins. And on the other hand, Edge is the ultimate opportunist, and he'll do anything to get what he wants. And what he wants
Is to face Roman Reigns one-on-one
at WrestleMania. And Bryan understands why, because Edge doesn't want to face Daniel Bryan.
But what's the difference between Bryan and Edge?
He thinks he can beat Roman Reigns.
But
I know I can beat Roman Reigns.
he's going to do to him what he did to his cousin Jey 2 weeks ago. Roman's music hits and he and Paul come out. Roman takes the mic and he says,
I can deal with you telling these little lies.
but
Like my name, you're going to lie on the tribal chief?
you can't tap me out. Roman says Bryan has a better chance
Of shooting lightning out of his ass than tapping.
or sprouting wings and flying out of here like a little bird than tapping out Roman, and Paul is just popping at it all.
And overselling it too, which is what's so good. You know, you got to laugh at the boss's jokes, right?
Yep.
So Roman says that no one
My entire career has ever tapped me out.
he'd rather lose his arm or die in that ring than tap out to someone like Daniel Bryan. Bryan then says that that's pretty strong, but out of all the things that Roman says about himself, also lies. And
They're all delusions.
everyone thinks they're unbeatable until they lose. Everyone thinks they're untap-outable.
Until they tap out.
Bryan then says he's not going to just beat Roman. He's
I'm going to break you.
whether Roman taps or not, Bryan is beating him for the Universal Championship.
We get a flashback video of Edge relinquishing his title 10 years ago, and Edge music hits and he makes his way to the ring. Jay's music hits, he walks down, and Cole is reviewing the stakes. The winner is the guest enforcer of the match at Fastlane. Bryan is at ringside on commentary. The bell rings, the two lock up, and Jey is still selling his shoulder, which I really appreciate that, especially after that foot fiasco with Kevin Owens a few weeks ago.
Yeah, he's learning, man, and this is good stuff. This is how you become main event, right?
Yeah.
He's in control early, and Jay's still selling the arm every time they break. Edge then goes to work on Jay's arm, but as he does so, Bryan's talking about Edge's frustration with Bryan earning a shot at Roman, so he's selling the match in the background. The two then go to the outside. Jay cuts off Edge and throws him into the steps, and then hits a dive to the outside.
We come back after break, and Jey is getting heat on Edge with stomps. Jey drops him over the ropes, and he hits Edge to the right and sends him to the outside. Jey throws him back in and throws Edge ribs first into the post. He grabs Edge's arm and leg, and he wrenches them using the post. Jey rolls back in, and Edge starts a comeback, but his ribs are injured. Edge catches Jay's foot, and Jey hits an enziguri to the ribs. So again, this is really good stuff. Jay's picking a body part and he's sticking with it. The cowboy hat man on the hard cam just shadow boxing with himself. It was incredible the whole match.
I missed it. I got to see it. I got to go back. So the two run the ropes and Edge hits a big cross body. Both men are down. Edge is still holding his ribs, but he throws Jay's shoulder first into the turnbuckle and then hits a running knee to the shoulder for two. Jey cuts off Edge with a Samoan drop and gets a near fall. He's climbing to the top, but Edge cuts him off and hits a top rope Hurricane Rana. Jey goes for a super kick, but Edge cuts him off, hits execution, and sprints at Jey for a spear. Jey cuts him off with the super kick, runs up to the top, hits an Uso splash, but because of the arm, can't get Edge over right away for the pin, so Edge kicks out at 2.
Edge then gets up, he pulls Jey arm first into the mat, hits the rope, and nails Jey with a spear. And that was really kind of out of a nowhere finish. It was awesome. But Edge is now the special enforcer for our match at Fastlane. And Edge turns around, he eats a spear from Roman, and Roman starts trash talking Bryan. And Bryan goes to walk into the ring, but Jey hits him with an ambush and throws Bryan into the ring, right into a spear by Roman. And show ends with Roman standing tall, title belt held high over both men.
And dude, I'm so pumped for this show now.
Yes,
I really am. This did a great job building it. But before we get to Fastlane, I got to know who's on the island of relevancy this week.
I'm putting Daniel Bryan on it because he has been on the side of this story for a while and he's fully inserted himself in a smart babyface way. And I really want to see him do good, but I want our tribal chief to do that much better. That's what I had on my island of relevancy this week. Let's Goose, who are you tossing into the ocean of obscurity?
I can't throw in no one. There's no one I would want to throw in.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, this week, Paul.
Ooh.
Only because Paul did not contribute to the build. It was all Edge, Daniel Bryan, Roman Reigns. So that's it. Oh, and I'm throwing Paul a life jacket, life saver things, and I'm pulling him right back in. You know what I'm saying? But this was the first time that we saw a real build for a match that wasn't centered around his manipulation or his promo work or anything like that. This build did not need Paul Heyman.
That's crazy. I didn't even think about that until you mentioned it, that Paul really did not play an integral part to the story at all. He literally, the only thing that he did was just talk to Jey to not go talk to Roman.
And laugh at Roman's jokes.
Yes.
And get him a chair.
So that is part 21 of the Bloodline Rewind. We will be back next week with the Fastlane pay-per-view, Roman Reigns versus Daniel Bryan with Edge as your special guest enforcer. I cannot wait for this match. But if you are new to the channel, make sure you subscribe. We talked about the WrestleMania 41 night one. We have our instant reaction over on the channel. Go check that out. That was a live stream that we did. But we have a lot more good stuff coming up here. We are still on the road to WrestleMania 37. So with that, I'm Johnny Bake Show.
I'm Teddy Mongoose.
And we just called it in the ring.